Hey there, Larsen here from crogurus.com. In today's video, I'm going to share with you our model for optimizing e-commerce stores for conversion. So there's 4 areas that we have honed in, and this is a model that we've been working on since 2016. And we've really looked into it, like what does a 6-figure store need to do and in which steps in order for them to increase their conversion rate. So in this model, we have cut out all the fluff. Everything that doesn't move the needle, that is sort of nice to have, but not a must have. We've cut it out so that we can get results fast. That's the name of the game. You don't want to get stuck with your current conversion rate for a long period of time where we do this like fancy 3-month research process. Instead, let's condense the research process, preferably to 2 to 3 weeks. And from there, we can have the highest value changes already. So the faster we can go and implement these changes, the better off we are. Now there's 4 areas here, and they all support each other. So people ask me, which area is the most important? They're all equally important. They all need each other, and they all benefit from each other. So the 4 areas are conversion analysis, analytics analysis, technical analysis, and usability research. Now, many of those times, the conversion analysis would benefit from technical analysis, and analytics will benefit from conversion analysis. So they are interlinked here. So it is a mistake to say that we are data driven, and only look at Google Analytics, or say that we are UX experts and then only focus on the UX. You need to have this balanced view of every single area, because that's when you find that data says this, but what does the usability say? Or we think that this page is the problem, but what does the analytics data say? So it's this interweb of things that come together and form this complete picture of where you are right now, and more importantly, what are those actionable steps that you can take to move towards that next level. Now let's break this model into its elements. And let's start from here on the very top. We have the conversion analysis. And typically when people think of conversion rate optimization work or the conversion rate optimization auditing work, they think of this. They think of finding all the fancy ways to manipulate people into behaving a certain way, perhaps adding some scarcity timers, and somebody just bought this from London, etc., that kind of pop-ups. But it's not really about that. It is about the fundamentals and identifying those things that are holding you back. So those would be things where maybe a question is not answered, or there's no details about shipping. There's all these checklists in the buyer's head that we need to be able to supply. So those are some of the things that are costing you money, but at the same time there's elements that are not making you enough money. So perhaps you could improve your value proposition on your front page, or you could make your categories already, they're good, but they could be a little bit better. Perhaps you could move your bestseller to the front, these kind of things. And it goes pretty deep. I've done analysis that are 30 pages just based on this. Nothing but persuasive suggestions, improvement points on what leaks we could plug, and then staying within that framework and coming up with a ton of suggestions. Now this is a case where on every single e-commerce store we found at least 10 pages of findings, but sometimes it might vary a lot. So in some cases you'd find that 30 pages of suggestions if the e-commerce store is not a particularly great one, and if it's a bigger store. Now, when I take on a new e-commerce store for conversion optimization, this is where I usually start, and this is where I usually end. So on this model, it's on the top. It sort of goes clockwise, but it's not a structural, necessarily step 1, step 2, step 3 approach. But you are circling in this model until you come up with a final product of the audit. So that is sort of the sexiest part of conversion optimization. And from there on, we move into more bland day-to-day parts, which are still very, very important and should not be overlooked, but are one of those things that are more like execution. So we do them the same way every time, and the results are sort of automatic, but they're still very valuable. So for example, you need your site to be technically sound and work. Otherwise, all these persuasive elements don't really matter. So the site needs to be, for example, load fast. Otherwise, people will never see that headline, or they won't have the patience to go through your pages to the checkout. So that is why we have all these elements instead of just a single part approach. All right, let's move on. Let's cover the technical analysis next. This is the part that I often find is the most overlooked. People just tend to view their stores with this big desktop monitor, and they forget that this is the way that people see it these days. So there's a lot of things that go on the theme when you start changing the resolution. You narrow it a little bit to a tablet size, then you go to the mobile landscape, to the portrait, and it does change things. It changes things from the usability perspective, but also from a technical perspective. So you have these responsive sites now, and you have Shopify themes, for example, where you start populating those themes, and they oftentimes break. And it might work well on your iPhone, but then it doesn't work well on your Samsung or somebody else's different browser. So still there's so many different combinations of devices, browsers, these kind of combinations and screen sizes that often makes sites show up differently on different experiences. And this is where we look into it here. So from analytics, we can see what the users are actually using. So if they're using mostly Samsung S8 or something, we would take that device and check it out. And we would do this for all the most popular devices. Now with this, we'll get a good overview of where are the problems and what isn't working. So that will give us the views. So we could have like screenshots in the audit, and then we'll also test the usability on that. So we'll have the technical usefulness of the site. So we'll test like links are working, and all the functionalities work on these key browsers as well. So this ensures that we don't lose any obvious conversions, because the first thing we can do when we take on any new site is just make sure that these like leaks that are 100% clear leaks are plugged, and that's not up to question. If your shopping cart, when you click on it, doesn't work, then it's not going to help your conversions. So this is overlooked but a very important area of conversion optimization. Next element in the research methodology is the analytics analysis. There's two parts to analytics analysis, and the first part is checking the existing data. What do we have? What do we don't have? And from here, you'll have your data, but we don't really know if we can trust it and if you are tracking all the needed things. So oftentimes, we actually take on e-commerce sites that don't have e-commerce tracking enabled in Google Analytics. And when that happens, it's obvious that the analytics setup, the code has been implemented on the site, but nothing has really been configured in Google Analytics. And Google Analytics, for example, is a tool that is meant to fit all businesses, basically. So it's not necessarily configured for your e-commerce store. You need to do that yourself. So we'll take a look at the data, see what's out there, and what we would start tracking. So for example, this could be menu clicks, this could be scroll depths, all the information that would be important for analyzing the performance, we'll start tracking. And also, we'll start tracking many of those things that will help with retargeting. So if you have more engagement from the visitor, you'd want to retarget that visitor more than people that have not engaged that much. Oftentimes we see that most analytics setup are just outright broken or at least insufficient in what they track. So this is the data part of the methodology, and it really comes well together with the other parts because you have the zero analysis. So here we can pull out what parts of the store are high traffic and which parts are not doing very well, where there's like, for example, high bounce rates and low session value or page values. Then we can look into this data from analytics and see what screen sizes people are using and focusing on that, on the technical analysis, for example. And on the usability side, we can look into, okay, these are the user paths and start backward engineering that, okay. What does the user actually like? What is their situation? What are they likely thinking here? And from there, we can start to think a little bit more like a user and achieve a better understanding of what is actually going on in the end user's mind. So yeah, every site has strengths, every site has weaknesses. Those will show up in analytics, but analytics only tells you what has happened. It's not a predictor of future, and it's also not a tool that will tell you why that particular thing happened. And that's where we need the other pillars. Then also in this phase, we're going to fix the setup so that we'll have that good data coming in the future months. So we can trust what we're seeing on these dashboards. And the final piece of our methodology is the usability research part. Here, we usually use a usability specialist to conduct this, but the basic idea is to identify those problems that are not necessarily technical. So let's say you have two links right next to each other on mobile devices, and it's very tricky to hit one of those, or you can't close any menus, or like these kind of things. They're not necessarily technical problems, but they are huge usability problems. And we can think usability as a sort of a thermostat. Like once you start being frustrated enough, you will give up. And the usability that your site has reflects your brand, and it is one thing that is also subconsciously associated with your store. So if your store is easy to use, people will have a positive association. If it isn't, then next time they think of shopping there, there might be like a little bit of like subconscious, like, it's not as comfortable as I'd like to be. So we want to identify those, because not only are they problematic in terms of brand perspective, but they are also problematic in terms of conversion perspective. So identify those, and for this we use both quantitative and qualitative methods. What's the difference here? So quantitative methods are based on data. They are your heat maps, your scroll maps, your click maps. Then qualitative methods are more based on quality, obviously, but this would be an individual performance, so with a lower sample size. For example, this would be a session recording Or more of an advanced case where we're looking a lot further into it, this could be a usability study, or even like hiring test per people to see how this site is used. So that kind of like really in-depth test subject usability research. So in the model, we very much stress these non-sexy parts of optimization. So the technicality of the site, the accessibility of the site, how usable is it? And only after that can we start to be persuasive. Because if these basic things are not taken care of, if they're not in place already, then we're going to have a really difficult time persuading, because people will be frustrated already, they'll be tired, they'll have a lot of cognitive load. It's exhausting to use bad websites, especially when it comes to e-commerce. And if the website is bad, you will not have this kind of same amount of trust as you would have with a fancy, good-looking, modern website. So it's going to undermine all of our efforts when it comes to persuasion, design, conversion rate optimization. And that's why we focus very much on these non-fancy elements, and just getting the basics right. And oftentimes that will already lead to good results. And after that, it comes down to the expertise of the optimizer. So there you have it, our conversion rate optimization model explained. Now, all we do in this channel is conversion rate optimization, e-commerce growth, and e-commerce optimization. So if you want more videos like these, where you can learn actionable strategies for succeeding in e-commerce, definitely smash that like button right now. And if you have any questions or videos that you'd like me to make, just suggest them. Like, we read all the comments and answer to at least most of them as well. So make sure to subscribe, preferably also click the bell icon so you won't miss it. And I look forward to seeing you on the next videos. Cheers.